Does the math work? Then we go into the actual starting of the business. And the most common question is, oh, should I just form an LLC? Well, wait a second. LLCs are, I have a love-hate relationship with LLCs because LLCs are recommended by Google, by most attorneys. And from a tax perspective, they are the worst because that's where you pay the most amount of tax. However, you can also convert an LLC to something else easier than any other entity. So they're good and bad. So it's kind of like a scale. So that's kind of decision number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, yeah. So those 3 are the basic things that someone who wants to start something or try things out should think about. And
Okay.
the word about LLCs and entities,
Yeah.
just, LLCs, yes, they're the worst from a tax perspective. However, when someone is starting out and they're not sure if this will work, LLC could be the ticket because first, it doesn't require a separate tax filing. So all of the information from your LLC goes into your own personal tax return. So you don't have to spend money paying for a separate tax filing when the time comes. Let's say if you've invested some money, maybe, in the beginning, it's a loss. You haven't generated a revenue. You want to take advantage of that loss. That's where an LLC would work best. And then as soon as you start making money, you convert it to something else with a tax planner.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good to know. So let's get into your book then. So you wrote the book, Dream Bold, Start Smart. What made you want to write a book?
There are 2 things, really. Number 1 is I just was heartbroken seeing folks who come to me for service and they've already at the time have wasted a lot of money because they didn't have a clear roadmap. They've maybe hired an attorney, spend a couple of $1,000 there. They've hired someone else, spend a couple of $1,000 there, and then their idea doesn't work. Or maybe they messed up. They got a notice from an IRS, from the IRS or something. So they come to me already heartbroken. And I know when I look at their information, I feel like all of these things could have been avoided. But there's so much information out there. There is Google, there is LegalZoom, there are all these websites and all the different professionals telling you all the different things, that it's no wonder that there's so much going on and people don't have a clear understanding of what needs to happen. After all, people who are starting businesses are not accountants necessarily,
right,
or related to accounting or taxes or numbers in any way. And so it's not their fault, but it is our fault and our responsibility as accountants to teach people to do it better. But sometimes clients come to us when it's already kind of too late for that. So I wanted to write a book to provide that roadmap, to provide a kind of a solid foundation so that someone who wants to start something can know what to do and understand what they need to know in order to get there, in order to not fail and in order to not lose money. And the second reason is that I've gotten to a point in my practice where working with me is costly, expensive, because it requires a lot of my involvement and a lot of my time. And but the people who are starting out are the ones who need my expertise most. So I wanted to write a book to make my expertise accessible and affordable to more people so that it serves 2 groups of people. One, it serves the audience. It serves people who are starting out, who do need the confidence in starting something that's meaningful for them, and doing it right, and avoid the wasted money and avoid the anxiety that comes with it, and have a solid plan and a solid foundation when they're starting out. And Number two is accountants, because what happens is if someone starts a business and let's say they want to save money, so they do their own bookkeeping. They get a piece of software and they start doing their bookkeeping, categorizing transactions and setting up accounts and so on and so forth. What happens is that normally within 6 to 8 months, it becomes a mess
Mm.
because they're not accountants. And accountants end up doing what's called a cleanup engagement. Well, the client has to pay for it, and the accountants usually dislike very much doing the cleanup work. So if we could eliminate that piece, if people would start smart and skip that, the accountants would be more helpful and provide more meaningful advice to the client. And you as a client would actually be able to afford an accountant who is a true advisor to you and your business.
Hmm. Great. That's good to know. And with your book, when does it officially come out?
So the book is launching in March, but it's available for pre-order in January. So right around now.
Okay, wonderful. So I want to talk about what's happening with the pandemic right now. So it's affecting a lot of businesses in all different industries. So what are some things that you are advising your clients to do so that they can, survive and keep going through this difficult time?
What I start with is there's something called a crisis response curve. The crisis response curve kind of starts high and kind of goes down and then kind of levels out and starts trending upward. If you can kind of picture it, it's a fairly simple, curve. So the first point, the high point, is where the business is, and then let's say the pandemic happened and people were in shock. So that first stage is a state of shock. And the next step, kind of going down, is the desperate action step. And then the bottom is the evaluation stage. So when the pandemic happened, many people were in shock and stayed in shock for some time. And then maybe made some desperate moves. Businesses closed down, restaurants closed down, even though they could switch to delivery only or takeout only or that kind of stuff. And all of that kind of still damaged the business. Then some of them have gotten to that evaluation stage. And then the next step after that is deliberate action. So the evaluation and deliberate action steps are strategic and take a little bit of planning and a little bit of pivoting, which is kind of an overused word this year, but or in this pandemic, but it's the truth. Businesses pivot, start pivoting when they've evaluated the situation, when they've evaluated their options, and then start taking deliberate action to bring them back into the business. So what I advised my clients and worked with my clients on was, dealing with the stimulus applications and moving them out of state of shock and desperate measures into the evaluation stage as fast as possible,
Mm-hmm.
to minimize the damage to the company, to kind of switch their mindset, shift their mindset to the evaluation of their options and what to do next. That has been the most impactful strategy this year with the pandemic and everything with clients.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So I like the very logical step forward kind of approach to it, but how do you advise clients and work with clients when fear is something that is overwhelming, particularly at this, during the pandemic, but how do you work with them to approach fear and uncertainty and get past it?
So we typically evaluate our risks, and that's what I've done with my VIP clients when this whole journey started in March. We evaluated the resources that we have, the risks that are potentially could happen, and how, if there were to happen, what the damage would be and how would we manage it. Do we have the cash? Do we have the line of credit? Do we have plan B?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that alone, awareness builds confidence. And many of my clients actually, I work with some of the best CEOs, at least that I've encountered in my career, and many of them were like actually calming me down. And that's what I want. I want them to be confident, so confident that they actually tell me, "Don't worry, I got this." And to get them to that point, it takes a lot of work and a lot of just kind of facing it. So my mantra is, don't fake it till you make it. Face it, and face it early and often when it comes to numbers and money and taxes. So with clients, it was about, let's look at a pessimistic projection for the next 5 months. How much cash are we going to have if things don't go at all as we planned? Okay, how about we look at optimistic? How will our cash bottom line will look like if things do go as we planned? And basically that was the starting point for most of my clients. That's how we've worked through it. Yes, I did have clients who were freaking out. I did have clients who were depressed, not clinically diagnosed, but depressed, were feeling down, were feeling pessimistic. But just talking about it, looking at scenarios, looking at risks, brought them back. It took a little bit of time, but it brought them back to, okay, you know what? Let's see what we can do. So one of my clients was mostly a wholesale business, high-end dresses sold to department stores and online retailers. And for them, as soon as this happened, a lot of their clients have canceled orders, some of which were already produced. So naturally, the client was feeling down and very pessimistic, and they were like, the business is over. Like a month ago, we were thinking, we're hiring people and thinking that the world is ours, but now we're like, we don't know what's going to happen by the end of this year. And this prompted them to launch a website and to sell B2C, which was amazing because it's a completely different approach to a clothing brand. It's a completely different business model and business structure. So yes, it required some adjustment. It required some feeling down and going through the pessimistic scenarios, but they've got out of it. And so can any business. I mean, not any business. Airlines and hospitality industries were hit the hardest, but many businesses have pivoted to very unprecedented levels, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, great. So with everything that you have done and experienced so far, what would you say has been the best advice that you have ever received?
The best advice that I ever received was not to burn bridges. It seems simple, but it's not easy for everyone to do that, to not burn bridges. But it has served me in many ways over the years. And naturally, my temperament is such that I am often inclined to just kind of burn all the bridges and stop all the relationship if the relationship is not working the way I want. But I've been proven time and time again that it's not a good strategy, not at all, because it doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve the person that you're burning or the company that you're burning bridges with. There's always time. There's always space to collaborate. There's always space to lift each other up, and that probably is the best advice that I've ever received.
Excellent. Well, I mean, it's definitely fantastic advice because you never know when that relationship will come back again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tatiana, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. If the listeners would like to, of course, buy your book or, hire you for services or just see what you're working on, where is the best place they can go for those?
So for all the updates, you can go to talktotatiana.com. It's the easiest way to reach me. All of the resources free, and my programs are listed there. And my book pre-order is available on Amazon, so you can connect with me that way.
Fantastic. And I will put that in the show notes so people can click right through. Well, again, Thank you so much, Tatiana. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Yuri, for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Advance Your Art with Yuri Cataldo. If you like this episode, please remember to give us a 5-star rating, like, and share with a friend. Our theme music is written and mixed by Chicago-based composer Ryan Black of Black Bones Collaborative. To listen to the full catalog of our episodes, go to advanceyourart.com. To see what I'm working on or book a time with me or buy a copy of my book, Be Left Behind, go to yuricataldo.com.